All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our week 3 how-to for B2VB Basics. I apologize for starting so late today. Had to restart my computer and get some things fixed for my streaming setup. If you tuned in yesterday, I went through the whole how-to, but I didn't have any sound with my microphone. So I think we are working the way that we should now. So hopefully everything is coming through. All right, let's go ahead and get into our how-to for today. All right, so before we get started with our week 3 challenge, just a reminder that everything that you need to find for our B2VB Basics Data Community Challenge can be found on the Tableau Student Guide website under the B2VB Basics tab. We have just history of the project, all of our previous challenges, this year's challenges, the project structure and how to participate, some other links here for tips from Shreya. My co-lead for the project, Shreya, helps put together tips and tricks for all of our challenges, so make sure you check out her website. And then we also have a suggestion box here if you would like to submit data or a topic that you would like practice on. We are open to all ideas. And finally, the most important thing is to submit your visualization in our tracker. So fill out this form, and this will populate a tracker that lives on my Tableau public profile, so we can check it out here. But this is a great way to keep yourself accountable as well as see what others are putting out there for the project. So this has all the historical things in it. This tracker has become a great resource for a great way to see how to visualize the same data that you're working with in plenty of different ways. So make sure you check this out. And this updates on a daily basis, so you can follow along there. And finally, our week 3 data, as we get into it, is all of our data is hosted on data.world. So when you click on that link on the B2VB Basics website, it'll take you to data.world. But one thing that we want to be mindful of is that you need to have a data.world account to be logged into to see the data and see the prompt for this week. So that's a question I've been getting every week, is that, it doesn't look like this website exists. Data.world updated their security, so you just need to make sure that you log in and have an account. So for this week, we are celebrating Black History Month, and we are looking at 9 2025 event highlights from BlackHistoryMonth.gov that are happening in the local to the DC area. And what we wanted to do is take all of this data that we have, so date, title, event type, and so on, and work with building text tables. So we're going to work on building tables in Tableau. So that is enough talking for now. Let's go ahead and get into our actual how-to here today. So first and foremost, I'm connected to my data. I'm here on my data source screen. What I want to do is, before I get into actually building things out, let's make sure that our data is coming in correctly. So this is a good practice to get into. Make sure that your strings are coming in as strings, your dates are coming in as dates, and just make sure that your data is formatted correctly. The first thing that jumps out to me here is my start and end time. Now, I would probably want this to be formatted as an actual time. For just the use case that we're going to go through today, I'm going to keep this as a string. So I want this, instead of being a date time, I just want this to be a string so it looks similar to this. Maybe we would write a calculation that would concatenate these fields. So that's something that you can think about. And then finally, we have 2 URLs here. We have an event URL that will take us to the actual page where we can probably sign up. And then we have an image URL, which should be an image that is tagged, or a URL that's tagged to the image for these events. So we'll play around with that in just a second. Everything looks good, so let's go ahead to our sheet 1. All right, so tables in Tableau are not the most flexible to work with. There are ways that we can kind of create more visual tables and make them appealing to our users. Out-of-the-box tables in Tableau are not too, there's not too many ways that you can kind of do a lot of conditional formatting like you can with Excel. So just a few barriers there, but overall, there's a lot of folks that still like to see tables. It's a very clear way to organize our data to get that row level detail. So we probably still want to have some supporting charts that summarize the data, but always good to maybe have like a detail table because the users still like to see something at that level. All right, so let's just go ahead and start building our table. So I'm going to drag out my date to rows. I'm going to drag out my title to rows. I'm going to drag out my, let's do our start and end time. And let's just bring out our event type and host institution. All right, so there you have it. There's the table. Now, this is not very pretty, right? There's a lot of things that we can do to make this look better. So rather than just defaulting to the year, maybe we turn this into the actual date. So I just turn this into an attribute so we can see the actual date. And by default, Tableau is going to group these based off of date just at the level of detail that we have it. So we have our date first, meaning that these two events take place on the 6th and these two events take place on the 8th. So one way to get around that is maybe we drag out another instance of title and put that first. And then we could, that'll hide both of them. So maybe we don't do that. Maybe we just reverse the order. So let's put our title first and then we have our date. You could also use an index function to assign a row number for each one. So that is another option as well. All right, so let's just do a little bit more formatting here. So you can tell this to take up the entire view if you want. I tend to just do like standard, depending on like the size of where this is fitting on my dashboard. And I kind of like to play with like the sizing here just to kind of get it in a more of a friendlier format. And by friendlier, I just mean something that I'm comfortable with, like the space between and, kind of the even spacing. I don't like when things are like super squished like this. I kind of like to have a little bit of white space in between things. So that's where I kind of play with the spacing as well. All right, let's talk about some other things that we can do here just for formatting. So we can see here that Tableau does start to give us a little bit of the the gray shading. That way, you're kind of creating the distinction between different rows, but it's stuck here. So basically right now it's just at our host institution level. We can format this to move it up levels, and we can also change the band size. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to right click and select format. And I'm going to go to my paint bucket for format shading. And then you'll see here that I have options for row banding and column banding. So when I change my band size, you can see that it gets thicker. So now we're grouping by 3, grouping by 4, and grouping by 5. Probably just want to keep it at the single level. If I go down here, that's nothing. We won't see anything. So we're grouping at every other row. And then here's the level. So as I slide this left, you can see that now it's on event type, end type, start time, date, and title. Okay, so that's just some simple formatting that we can do. This is maybe just like a personal preference, but sometimes I like to make this like even like a bit of a lighter gray. I know this is like, this is just a design thing for me, but I'll move this down and I'll update the header to be this lighter gray as well. And then I'll go to my format borders and I will change these lines to just be a little bit lighter as well. Maybe even just something in there. So you can see it's so very faint, but it still kind of has that distinction. So that's just kind of a design tip for me. I don't like to use really heavy grays in my table. So that's just something that I do. And then maybe we change the shading of this to be a different color up here. Now, you might be asking, well, why is there this ABC here? Well, by default, right, these are all our headers of our table, but we don't have anything else here in our columns to fill up this space, right? We're still working with like a mark type here. So maybe what we do is we can put our image URL. Now, this is coming in as a string, but this is a newer feature within Tableau. Maybe I say newer, but probably within the past few years. If we click this down and we go to image role, we can change this from none to URL. And now when I bring this out and put this on text, I lied. I probably need to put it in here. There we go. All right, we'll put something else on text. But now that I changed that to image role, we can use this image URL to go find where that picture lives and bring that into our dashboard. So this is great if you have kind of like a whole table of products or even events like this, or honestly anything. This is a really cool feature that has come out. So if you have an image tied to a URL, you can pull that into your dashboard as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. So maybe we'll just kind of keep that in here for now. And actually, maybe we'll put it first. I'm going to drag this over, just do some formatting here. Let's see. I can put our event description on text. Now that's going to fill up all of our space here. But to me, this looks a little silly. There's just a lot kind of going on here. So a lot of text to read through. Another thing with tables, I would probably update our tooltip. We probably don't need all of this in here. So maybe one trick that I might do is change this from an automatic to a shape. We take this off of text and we put this just on tooltip. And for our shape, maybe I don't have any custom icons in here, but maybe we bring in a different icon. So I'm just going to use like this this lightning or this bulb for right now. I can make this smaller. I could probably get rid of these vertical lines as well. And then I can go in and edit my tooltip. Let's get rid of all of this stuff here. Just going to make this a little bit smaller. All right, so now when I hover, now I get my event description. So this is another way, rather than having all this huge free text in here, that I can add a little bit more detail to my dashboard here without having all this extra text. All right, so there you have it. That's kind of the basics of a table, but I want to show you just a few other options for kind of making this a little bit more visually appealing. So let's keep our image URL, let's keep our title. We will keep our date, start time, and end time, but let's get rid of our event type, host institution, and our event detail. And I'm just going to change this back to automatic for now. Let me stretch this out so we have some space so you can see that. All right, now, like I said, tables are a bit rigid within Tableau, but there's a little bit more that we can do to make them more visually appealing. So I'm going to use kind of these placeholder calculations to do a little bit more interesting and more visually appealing formatting for my user. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, you can see here that this min of 1 is just plotting an axis 0 to 2 with our value of 1 for each row that we have. But it's created a different marks card for each of those. So now what I can do is I can play around with those marks to kind of add a little bit more detail to this table. So let's just start with the first one here. I want this to be colored by my different event type. So what I can do is bring out event type onto label. You can see here that it labels it. But now we're going to play around with all of this, so you'll see where we're going with this. I'm going to center this. I want to center this within the bar. And then we're going to assign a color to it. Put event type on there. Let's pick a nicer looking color palette. Maybe we'll go with the Miller Stone. All right, so now we have a different color for each of our event types, but it still isn't formatted correctly. I kind of want this centered within the table. So I need to edit my axis and say, a custom axis, let's do, oh, I made a mistake. These need to be 1.0. If we just do 1, when we edit the axis, then we're not going to be able to add in decimal points. So it's important to add in the 0.0 there. All right, so let's edit this. I want this to be a negative 0.5. You can see as I change this, my axis will update. And I want this to be 1.5. And I'm doing that to add kind of the spacing and padding on the side. Okay. Let me resize a few of our things here. I'm going to bring this over here actually, just so we have the room. All right. So now you can see that my event type is now centered within my shape. So I can maybe make this shape a little bit skinnier. And then maybe my label, I say, is, let's do like Tableau semi-bold, maybe match the mark color. That kind of looks a little neat. Could do white as well. I don't like that. I'll do match mark color for now, and we'll keep it bold. All right, so that's one option. Let's do the same thing for our event, our host institution. So now I'm going to go down to the second mark. This 1.0 here is this mark card. You could always create these as actual calculations and label them, so it's a little bit clearer. But we're going to do our host institution on label. We're going to do our host institution on color. Pick a different color palette. Maybe too many bold colors going on here. I don't like the red and green there. Let's do purple, pink, and gray. Cool. All right, now let's do the same thing. So edit this axis. It pops up here, custom. I'm going to try, I just want a little bit more room, so I'm just going to do 1.4 this time. Hopefully I can center everything in there. Again, we may need to play around with our space a little bit. And we'll center things in there. Yeah, not really enough room for us to fit. Let's just bring this over. Again, always has to do with sizing a little bit. We'll just keep moving stuff over. All right. Again, sizing is always probably the toughest thing with tables. Okay, now for my last one, what I can do is maybe we want this to be like an icon to click to go out and sign up. So we're going to use the action and the event URL here. So for my last mark, I'm going to change this to a shape. My shape is going to be, we'll just use an arrow, something like this to I would maybe have like a website or something else that's a little bit more creative. We want this to be centered in here, so we're just going to do a custom axis of 0 to 2. So that's centered there. We can do a worksheet action, or we can even drop our URL on the link here. Just in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through creating the action, but worksheet action, and then you would use a URL action and add that link in there. So that when you click on it, it'll take you to that event to sign up. Lastly, I just want to go through some formatting here. Obviously, we don't want to show the header in the table here. And then there's also, it might be hard to see on the screen, but there are a lot of little grid lines in here and all these extra headers. So I really don't want to show that. So I'm going to right click and format, go to my format borders, and I'm going to get rid of my column divider and header. We don't want to see that. And then I'm going to go to my format lines, and I'm going to get rid of my 0 lines as well as my column grid lines. So now you can see that we have like one unified table. This is still a table within Tableau, but it's just more of a visual table. So now if I have a big list, now I have a color for my different event types. So visually, my eyes can go to the color that I'm looking for. Same with our host institution. So this is a way that we can get a little bit more creative with our tables and create something that is a little bit more visually appealing to our user than just kind of the standard out-of-box table. That is all that we have time for today. I encourage you to go to our tracker to check out some of the other submissions for this week. Remember to like and subscribe. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on YouTube. We're going to be doing these how-tos with all of our challenges. I hope you're learning a lot from them. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please reach out to us. We are always open to ideas. And thank you for supporting our community project, B2VB Basics. We'll see you next time. Thanks.